Hello, everyone, and welcome into our show today. We have a very special segment with some very special guests today. We are doing the midterm report cards, and today with me, as always, I got my right-hand man, Dash, but returning with me as well from Juve Cornercast, we have Gio, and for the first time on the show, after years of trying to plan this, it's finally happened. We have Alberto from All Juve Cast. Alberto, welcome, and how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you. Thank you very much for setting this up. I look forward to, I don't know if I actually look forward to this midterm report card for the team, but I know we're going to have a good time. And yeah, it's great to finally meet Gio as well and be able to chat Juve here. So I look forward to it, man. And thank you very much. It's an honor to be here joining you.
It's great getting the whole community together. That's the point, getting different opinions all in one place. Because it's too much just always listen to me or always listen to Dash. We want somebody to come at us, come with different opinions, and just open up that floor. So also we got Gio from Juve Cornercast. How you doing, bud?
No, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on once again. And Berto, you're a legend, man. So like I said, I'm really happy to be on the show once again. And like I said, I can't wait to talk some Juve, even though there's a lot of talk about, lots of negatives, and I would say some positives, I'll say, but there's a lot of negatives right now.
Yeah, Berto's one of the OGs in the space on YouTube, on podcasts. So he's been around for years. If you don't know him yet, I mean, get over to All Juve Cast because great content over there. And man, how long's it been now?
We've been rocking it solid for 7 years now. So
crazy.
7 years, but I think the team came together about a year and a half into starting that, just shy of 2. And then we really pushed from just audio into the whole YouTube world. And from there, it's just spiraled. But yeah, it's been a blast. Like the other day we were thinking about it. It's like, man, 7 years flown by. And I'm like, 7 years feels like yesterday,
Absolutely wild. And I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years and it's taken that long to finally get you on. So, time flies. And finally, Dash. Everyone here at the Dive should know Dash by now, even though he's not showing his pretty face. How you doing tonight?
Oh, just another remote show. Just because my schedule has been absolute monkey nuts for the past few months, so I am here via Doosan Head for y'all.
Beautiful. All right. Without further ado, guys, get down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. In the description, you have all the socials, Instagram, X, the Discord, as well as Spotify. It releases on Spotify as well. So get in there. And of course, get over to AJC and JCC and hit all of them up as well. So what we're going to do tonight, we're getting to the midterm reports. We're not going to get into things too in depth. We want to keep it tight, keep it flowing. So I'm going to let these three gentlemen kind of answer my questions. I'm going to go down a list. We're going to pose a few things and hit this team up with some broad strokes, get into a little the details, things that are really of concern. But overall, just give our opinion on where we are halfway through this season. So first and foremost, and because Berto, you're the virgin here on the dive. You get to go first on this one.
All right.
Just throwing you into the fire. We're going to start with Gintoli and the sports management side of things, the transfers, the squad depth. From the top, how are we doing this year?
I backed everything he did in the summer. You could see the reasoning behind all the moves. It all made sense from a business standpoint and a team building standpoint. I think some of the way a few of these expensive signings have played out is a little unfortunate when it comes to injuries. I still think J Medical needs to be burnt to the ground. That's just me personally. Okay. We can't cure the common cold in that place, but he did leave a couple issues for me coming out of the summer, which I was vocal about. And that was no other backup striker while Milik was still injured. And you had, I felt, a little bit shy at the center back role. And I never understood the push to get rid of guys that were just loans with no actual end deals to them. I thought we needed one more center back around because the guys we had were kind of these hybrids. Like Danilo in a back four as a center back, we were always like, I don't know. And then Cabal was a relative unknown to us at 12 million, 13 million, whatever we picked up at. So there was a couple things, there that were like, we might be a little bit skinny, but you could make sense around all the moves he did. Fast forward to now, I don't understand the push for Danilo, even from just a depth spot during an injury crisis at a fullback position. I don't think he could play center back in the game that Motta wants to play. Absolutely not. We saw that. But at fullback, he can offer a little bit of rest for guys and just a little bit of coverage. And I don't understand this push to where he can't stay, especially if we're going to push him to a direct competitor for nothing financially. So now all of a sudden, this aggression in the summer, I get it. You're pushing for an overhaul. Now I'm like, maybe a little bit of a red flag right now. What's this do for, if you're a current player of Juve, how do you feel about loyalty to this team if they're starting to show none to a guy that was like one of the few leaders through a very rocky period and was nothing but a true professional throughout it? I'm starting to get some questions. So I'm just kind of cautiously watching Juntali for what he's doing right now, basically. So I backed him in the summer. I liked all the business he did. And I still think ultimately losing Cabal and Bremer really sucks. And especially Bremer, which you can never really predict or plan for. But the two things he kind of left us a little skinny at have kind of hit us. No backup for Dusan and a little skinny at the back. Sucks.
And you could say we had that through Danilo, through Ragani. There were options there. And yes, you're right. We are pushing guys out. Those are excellent points. Who's safe, who isn't. Gio, what's your take?
Yeah, no. When Juntali came actually to the Juventus actually in the start of the summer, I was really high on Juntali, especially the work that he did at Napoli. But we saw some of the mistakes that I think Juntali has made with the striker, the no backup striker. Then I think also mistakes defensively as well, and also the expensive players like Berto, like you said. A lot of the expensive players haven't actually come up to expectations this season. For example, Koopmeiners, Douglas Luiz, especially Douglas Luiz, in my opinion. I think that that was a little bit of a wrong move going for him for like around 50 million. So I think that was a little bit too much. But other than that, I think that also financially, from where we were last season, he's done a pretty good job in getting a lot of those, I would say, salaries down. The only one that I think that it's a little bit too high right now is, of course, Dusan. But other than that, I think that he's done a pretty good job in that sort of aspect. But of course, you're going to have that, especially with the Bremer injury. You can't really do that much when you don't even know when you're in the summer. But I think that going forward, I think that Juntali definitely maybe we'll see. In this January Mercato, if he could really change things, especially with supposedly, with a lot of the players that are being linked to this club, with Silva, a couple other guys as well. Tomori supposedly for 25 million. I hope that he doesn't go for that because that would be a waste of money that I think we should look elsewhere. But no, I mean, even the Danilo, giving him to a direct rival, I think that would be another mistake because I think that there is still, you could use Danilo for depth. We don't even have that many players on the bench. Like I said, the amount of injuries I think that we've had this season, like against Aston Villa, when we played Aston Villa, we had like 10 guys out for that game. So, like I said, we definitely need to reinforce in the January Mercato. It's going to be up to Juntali. If Juntali doesn't do, what we expect him to do in this January Mercato, fill in those blanks and up top and then also in the defense, then, like I said, then there's going to be a lot of questions for Juntali also at the end of the season, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost premature to rate him as he's going into his next transfer here. But, I mean, it is the midterms. He had done a lot of work in the summer, so definitely still a lot to go off of. Dash, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I can't beat a dead horse, right? Like with the whole center back and the backup striker. I don't hold them accountable for Koopmeiners or Douglas Luiz. That's more on a technical / management, like a manager perspective on it. I think though the one thing that I'm gonna throw you guys for a loop that I'm gonna put him on is I don't think the Motta hire was a good hire for what you're doing with the amount. And the reason why I say it is the amount of money that you spent in the summer for an overhaul of that magnitude, and with the pieces that you moved, you need to pick a manager that knows how to make that work effectively, right? Like you can cut slack on the back line. Like the back line, again, obviously 2 ACL injuries is a thing, but there's that where I'm like, okay, you've essentially bought the sexiest midfield in Serie A on paper. When you look at it from a paper perspective, it is. Where if your front three, your top 3 midfielders on in theory should be Koopmeiners, Luis, and Thuram, and Locatelli's, the fourth option. That's how competitive that was looking in the summer. Where that hasn't materialized, and again, we'll talk about the coaching perspective there. But for me, it's like when you do that big of an overhaul, you got to get the right person to manage it, and that's the one thing that I can hold a little bit where I'm a little bit questionable on Giuntoli there. But other than that, like with the amount of moves that he did and how he was able to do them, they're still good moves. The only thing that I can hold him even more accountable for is that he didn't rehaul J Medical and the nutritionalists, because this was one of the issues that we've been harking a lot is how the hell do you continuously have injuries in warmups? That to me makes absolutely no sense.
And this is it is a concern that I did actually want to put on the list, but we have so little information on how J Medical is actually run that is it really fair for us to go into depth, into detail when we don't have those details?
We call it Jeria 51, man. It's like they're hiding something, or like I don't understand. But like 15 muscular injuries now with Conceição, 6 times a player has returned from injury and immediately gone back on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not good enough. Like this is not good enough for any club, let alone one with the resources of Juve, right?
We should start charging a restocking fee. Maybe that'll.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. But when we get to Motta, like Dash's point there, it's a little interesting because.
Well, let's roll into Motta. Let's do it. Let's just roll into that.
It's a little interesting because, can you necessarily blame him for the hire? It's at this point where there's risk involved with whoever you're really going to bring in, given the status we were at, right? And how many like top tier elite guys are jumping in at the project at that point in time? Like maybe they want something a little bit more established. Like we didn't even play in Europe at all last season. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of this thing, like you can get somebody that's on the up that, might save you a lot in the long run if he does continue on this trajectory and whatnot. And yeah, you're taking a little bit of a jam, but I do, and I am of the same belief of Dasher that I don't fault Giuntoli for those signings, because like we're signing guys that are 3 years on the trot, solid players, and whatever their price tag is, they come here and all of a sudden they're shades of themselves. A coach has to put it together. I've got a lot of eyes on Motta right now because I think it doesn't even feel like it's the same guy as last season. A guy that was switching out of 3 formations, changing a couple guys, like almost match in, match out. Like it feels rinse and repeat the same, like Groundhog Day, watching this Juve game in, game out for a while now. Like I've been complaining for almost a month now, like a month and a half, that it feels the exact same. Even in certain victories, it feels the exact same, like the same shortcomings you see around this team, and we're not finding answers. So Motta, I'm kind of like, I'm at a point where I'm not saying he needs to be out like right now immediately, but this is a make or break month for him, in my personal opinion. I understand some people think, no, you signed up for a project, you signed up for a build. Guys, like, I'm not into opening up a can of worms into the depths of where we could go if this team misses Champions League again through play and drops out of a top 4 race. You spent 168 million euros in the summer. And if people are saying that's nothing in today's game, guess what? How much more do you think Juve's going to bury in another summer? You want us to spend 400 million? It just ain't going to happen. So Motta, he's got to put it together, and he's got to start finding wins. 11 draws out of this many games in Serie A is great for Bologna, but hey, man, you signed up for the gig. You got to start getting the wins. And we haven't beat a top side. Lazio's the best team we've actually won against, and it was an own goal, a 1-0 game. If you look at the opponents we did beat, should be beating them anyways. But the draws are just abysmal, and there's issues all over the place. Consistency issues, aggression issues, mentality issues. It's kind of crazy. We came out of the gate hard, but then it's like we plateaued. And I think now, because of the plateau being so long without answers being found, we've kind of maybe taken a couple steps back. So I'm on the fence with Motta, to be honest, on how confident I am in seeing this guy out. Like, I really need a change, and I need it fast. And January is a gauntlet of a schedule, fellas.
Sure it is. That's heavy. Who wants to follow up on that one?
Yeah, no.
I can.
Oh, I mean,
Go ahead,
I
Gio.
can follow up if you want. No, definitely. Like I said, Motta, in the beginning of the season, I had also a lot of highs on Motta too, and also I had some, questions about, it's a big leap going from a team like Bologna to a club like Juventus caliber, and like I said, I had a lot of questions about how Motta's going to really fit in certain players. For example, like Vlahovic, for example, is he a type of Motta player, which we now know he is not. And like I said, and I agree with you, Berto, this is a make or break January for Thiago Motta, because the next 4 games we're versing Torino, Atalanta, Milan, and Napoli. Like I said, if he doesn't win those games, his job is going to be at risk. It's just going to be there because, like I said, you can't be performing like Bologna standards at a club like Juve. You have to really, like I said, you have to. And also, there was also one press conference that he did something about winning is not an obsession.
Last week,
for Juve, like, winning is everything. Winning is everything. Vincere. It's like everything for this Juventus. And like I said, if you don't have it and you're the coach, like I said, then I don't think are you the man for the job? Like I said, I'm not sure. And we'll see in the coming games in January. With this Motta. But I think, and I agree with you, Berto, as well, and also Dash as well. We started off great as well. In the beginning, but then we started seeing, once the season went on a little bit more, that it just, like I said, just keep them going, just stumbling a little bit now as well in the defense and just the whole team in general.
I think it's caveat. Correct me if I'm not talking for you here. That we don't want Motta to leave. We're not Motta out. We want to see a project carry forward for a little bit longer, but we're seeing certain signs, right?
We really need it to work, is what we need.
Yes, we do.
Need it to work.
It's accountability. We're paying customers. Like that's at the end of the day. We all are paying customers. Whether we're paying Fubo, we're paying Paramount Plus, whether we're buying jerseys, equipment, or whatever. We're paying customers. Like I get irritated when I hear that sentiment from people on the internet where they're like, "Oh, well, you can't." No. I can complain. I pay for their product. Like that. That's what they're putting on the pitch. What I'm investing 2 hours of my day. Like yesterday, I invested 2 hours of my time to watch an absolute dumpster fire of a Coppa Italia or Super Coppa semifinal.
Well, we're all wearing shirts. We're all wearing their merch, and it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. And kind of furthering on the point where, like, for example, for me, or that's one of the reasons why I kind of hold Gentili a little bit questionable about it is, if Motta was going to be more of a long-term build or a long-term project, you don't dump as much money as you did in the summer. Because, like, for example, if you're kind of like, hey, we need a couple of years, we need to see how this builds or how it goes, you might get one foundational piece and you're going to try to make it work with what's around you. Not a full-blown overhaul like this. Because if you're doing a full-blown overhaul like this, the expectation is top 4 and nothing else. Like, with the amount of pieces that you're bringing in, that's what the necessity is. And that's where I'm a little bit concerned, either that they underestimated the other teams in Serie A and thinking, hey, we could probably squeak by top 4 this year, and unfortunately we're paying the price for it. But from a long-term sustainability, if you're doing a long-term project, you can't replace that many cogs like that and expect it to work.
I can't stress enough how top 4 is not an achievement. Like, this is insane. Like, to think that some are okay with, you know, the fact that, oh no, whatever, we're gonna keep going with this no matter what. Like, you signed up for 3 years. I don't care. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, according to Mike Tyson, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
Like, if the plan ain't working, I'm not ready to just like, you have to have a breaking point. Top four is not an achievement when you've spent 168 million. I know it doesn't automatically guarantee results, but my God, top four, if you're out of that race in January, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable in number one, dumping more funds in January for this guy's specific needs, if this is what I'm seeing with the club that we already have. Because on paper, we should be able to get by the Cagliaris, the Venezias, the Lecces. What are we talking about here? And we're not able to see that now. So this chase for like a Xerxes at 40 million, etc., like Silva at 40 million, like I'm not comfortable doing that based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
I'm just
very
not.
much the system players and not just
January should never be foundational pieces that you're bringing in.
Exactly.
January is
Yeah.
always like, hey, I need the Tomas Rincon. I need a Daniele Rugani. Like, I need a small little depth option to help for a long, for a title push. That's what January has always been. Like,
or in
you've
our
never,
case,
like,
just to secure the top four to get 80 or the 100 mil or whatever it is that we're going to get from it.
like, it's always been where, like, for example, strategic teams in January will always sign players that are, again, that they're there for depth pieces to help us. Like, for example, when we signed Dusan, I thought that was a little bit extreme, right? Especially in January, where I'm like, oh boy, I don't know how I feel about this. This
That
doesn't
was
seem like the right
FOMO.
move.
That was Ronaldo FOMO, though.
Yeah, no, I understand, and how's that working for us? But
It didn't, obviously, but
yeah, and that's where, like, I'm a little bit concerned. Where it's like, again, you're looking at Xerxes, you're looking at, like, for example, Silva, like, you're looking at these players, and it's like, I shouldn't be looking for foundational pieces in January, because you get both of those, that's 80 million, and then that's 80 million plus what you spent in the summer. Your dockets, like, for example, if you're investing, and with all due respect to Serie A, right? But if you're investing anywhere near to the platitude of 200 million, you should be competing for the title.
Yeah.
You should. There's no excuse that you shouldn't be competing. Like, for example, like, that to me is where I just find it absolute blasphemy, where, like, someone wants to sit there and argue with me and say, oh, it's a long-term project, let's get the stick. Okay, all right, let's play with this. What style of play is Juve currently doing? I don't know. Like, I legit, like I can't even
grip it and rip it.
pretty much grip it and rip it. But that's where I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, by December, right, we should have an idea of what they play and how they do it. And then again, I keep hearing this argument, well, if Motta actually had a proper center back, we'd be good. With what reference data is that?
There's an identity crisis, not just on the pitch, but I think everywhere. And it's got fans kind of battling history versus reality almost, because it feels like we're kind of the only ones holding the standards and trying to hold accountability across the board. And some people just don't have the stomach for it, like, since day one, I've been just like, our shows are raw. It's just pure, like, real fans, real emotions, just as all of yours is, and as Dash said, we're paying customers, this whole thing, like, spending that money coming out. I don't need the sporting director to feed me lines about top four being the aim. That's nonsense. I know that's not the aim. You don't dump 170 million in one summer and think that, oh, we just want to make top four. You were already there. To now try to figure out if we can, like, all of a sudden now make up lines for finishing outside of top four to try and stomach that. Like, it's just not going to work for me. It's not going to work for me. And I understand that people feel like time. Guess what? It's two sides of the fence there. How much time do you need? And are we wasting time? Because I kind of respect. Dave's muted, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, I was
Oh.
muted. Yeah, no, it's you only have a finite amount of time with the amount of money that you have, and that's the roadblock. You can only wait so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a huge investment for Juve in the summer. Like you need it to hit at least better than where we have now. And I hear a lot of the things, but I've felt a certain way for a while. It's like we could see the cracks there. And now they've turned into full-blown leaks. And it feels like each week it's like you're just trying to patch one while the other one's just leaking like a sieve. But that's kind of what it's become. You go from having one problem. Man, this team just needs to figure out how to break the low block. Oh, now we got way more issues than just breaking the low block, like starting a game on time, playing a solid 90 minutes, which I've only seen probably twice this entire season. We're in January, 2 solid 90s. That's crazy. Then you've got consistency issues with players. There's a number of things, like all these other things are opening up. And meanwhile, your coach, what has he actively done to try and turn the tide? We've seen one Coppa Italia lineup where he went with something different. We liked it. Never followed it up again. Never followed it up again. And this meritocracy that he always talked about has kind of gone out the window with some performances to certain guys, one of them being a heavy hitter like Koopmeiners. I'm sorry, but that game yesterday, like, I do not pull Imbangula off that game the way he was playing. I don't take Thuram off the pitch. And it's like he's got the same first guys always. And through it all, you have this almost this ego about not using Luis for more than 10 minutes in the game. Like you're starting to chase Fagioli. We don't need Fagioli. We're going to push him out. He's got some traits that the other guy you're trying to use advanced doesn't really possess. I don't know. It's weird. There's a big disconnect there. There is a disconnect there right now that if you're asking for time, for me personally, and only speaking for myself, you need to earn that time. And I'm not so sure that based on everything so far now, if we drop out of this top 4, like if top 4 becomes in jeopardy, I'm not so sure that, I want that time to Motta. I'll be quite honest.
Yeah, you want to see some forward progression, and we've stagnated a lot. And not to stagnate too much on the issue, you guys are very heated on this one. I want to move this along because we do have a lot to cover. Motta, I mean, we can do a whole show on Motta at this point. It's where it's at right now. We're going to dive deep into 3 specific positions now, kind of straight up the center of the pitch. We're going to, most recently, I feel like we have to do this, the goalkeeper position, in particular, Di Gregorio, and if he is at the performance level that we expect for him. I'll let Dash start off with this one.
I would say so. There's some games where it's like, okay, there's some lockout games, and then there's games where like you kind of have your head scratched, like the last one, right? With the positioning where he was way too far off his line on the own goal. Or again, in my opinion, I think he shouldn't be that far out, but it's hard, right? Like he's had great games, and then he's had some kind of games. So like for him, I don't really have much to really say about it.
Gio?
Yeah, no. With Di Gregorio, I mean, there's some games where I think he just he does really, really good, especially like that Manchester City game, the saves that he was able to pull off, But then, you get games like this one, against Milan, where I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But if I want to have to say, I mean, he's been okay. I think he's like the third, in Serie A, third best goalkeeper, I think, with the clean sheets. So I would say he's not doing too bad. So I'm not going to go too in detail. So I probably won't have that much to say about Digre. But like I said, Motta needs to really, I think, also switch up the goalkeepers once in a while, because the Perrin was doing also great at 1.2, with the penalty save against PSV. Like I said, he's been, I think, also solid for Juve too. Perrin, give Perrin a little bit more of a chance, and I hope we'll see a different lineup when we go against Torino.
Absolutely, and when we're talking about goalkeeper, by all means, these next 3 positions we can talk about the options that we do have. And Perlin, I've always said, best backup goalkeeper around. I mean, could you ask for more? Super cheap, loyal, stops the ball. Bertha, what do you got on it?
I've seen it for a while now since Perrin came in that we have two starting goalkeepers. I saw it with Szczesny and Perrin, and I see it still with Di Gregorio and Perrin. I'm a big Di Gregorio fan. I wanted him signed when the shouts were Carnesecchi. I was like, Di Gregorio cost us less. He's a solid keeper. He's going to win Keeper of the Year. Arguably should have had it a couple of years on the trot. I just think that we got to remember too that, I kind of felt it a bit. I didn't really make any comments on it, but just that simple little ball that pops up that goes towards his goal right off the gate of that game. And you see it's probably should have just been corralled and grasped, but he was super cautious in tapping it over and giving the corner to Milan. And it was like maybe a little bit of nerves. Maybe a little bit of nerves showed early on, or maybe just a lack of focus, but he didn't play in games like that where he came from. And now all of a sudden, you're the lead guy for Juve. It's Milan, no matter how they play, who they put out on the pitch, whatever. It's still Juve Milan. It's a Supercoppa, semifinal. There's going to be a little bit, I think, of growing pains there. Overall, I'm actually happy with Di Gregorio. There was also games where he saved us and came up huge for us. So it's give and take with goalkeepers. It's a shitty job. It's a shitty job. Like, you're out there and you're that last line. And, I was pretty hard on him for the PK. I think it was a poorly taken PK. Whether it was hit strong or not. I mean, my buddy who played professionally said he's got to stop that, like flat out. This happens though, and it is what it is. You just kind of move on. But Perrin is spectacular, and maybe it's this fine game about going back to the guy or going to the opposite, and how does that affect him? You don't know unless you're there and involved, right? So we wait and see. But I'm actually happy with the goalkeeper situation as a whole.
Yeah, it's just a theme that had come up recently, particularly after the Milan match there yesterday. And I'm in agreement with you. I think he's serviceable. I think we brought this up more so to maybe temper the community a little bit. There's a lot more, I feel anyways, that we should be concerned about. In particular, this next point is Koop in the number 10 position, especially when we have a list of others that could potentially play there. Gio, I'll let you get into this one first.
Yeah, no, Koopmeiners, when he came over, from Atalanta to Juve, it's like, how is he going to really be implemented into this Juve side? Because, we know how to play a specific way, and also when he started at the number 10, for the past couple games, he's been non-existent. So, I'm like, what is happening, with Koop? And then I'm like, you know what? And I agreed with Berto when I think one of his shows as well, when he said to drop Koop back, I was like, that I think he plays way better. I think, especially when he's on the ball a little bit more. He's way more, I think, involved into the game. I think he's also way more involved with the team itself. And also, I just think that, like I said, from the last couple of performances, he's way better in the 8th and the 10th for sure. So,
Berto, do you agree with that? You're nodding your head. You think he's a name?
I do. It's a frustrating thing for me because, like, these guys, as I said earlier, like, they don't just forget how to play. You're not a solid, like, top 3 mid in the league for a couple of years consecutively, and then all of a sudden just not know how to play, or you're not a good player.
Yeah,
he's got to figure it out. But some of the ways he's being used, like, it's wild to me. Like, even in just the Supercoppa match, for instance, like tracking down a long aerial ball and trying to settle it and take a D-man on the turn. I'm like, what? Koopmeiners? What? Not what I want him to be doing. 4-1-4-1, where you have both of the midfielders. Like, if you want to have 3 midfielders out there, 2 of them have to advance to support the attack. It's not going to work as a 10. If you want to play a 10, get one of your playmakers in there, Nico or Yildiz. It's as simple as that for me. Just simplify with Koopmeiners. He's at his best when he makes the trailing runs and he has that freedom to kind of see the pitch ahead of him and then make his decisions, etc., or make his runs. I'm putting it up to Motta to find rhythm and harmony amongst the squad. We still lack chemistry, and we're in January, boys. Like we like the chemistry, the link up in any of the guys used in attack. It ain't there. I saw one stat. It gave me just like instant achita. Okay. And it was like Yildiz to Vlahovic, 0 passes. Chico to Vlahovic, 0 passes. Fajoli to Vlahovic, 1 pass. Perin to Vlahovic, 5 passes. What is that stat? Like that's an honest stat. I'm not even making that up.
Oh man,
like
that's
I need more from the coach before I attack the individuals too hard, especially guys that have been solid for years before they get to us, right? That's just where I'm at. So I do tend to agree with Gio.
And Dash.
No, I've got really nothing. I mean, it's pretty much it. Like there's no way that there's multiple. Like I'm sorry, like for the level of play that Coop has demonstrated, and for him, people to just sell him off as a flop. I'm sorry, it's just I can't. Like for example, this is what boggles me, and I know we'll talk about him in the next segment, but like. When you have Dusan that only has 6 months of street cred, and I still listen to people just vibrantly guzzle the man like he's like the second coming of Christ, where it's just like Coop has had 3 to 4 years of street cred, literally single-handedly carried Atalanta in the Europa League last season, and then now I have to sit here and like, oh, the guy was washed, Atalanta never makes good players, it's always this, and that, and it's just like, hold on a minute. Y'all are trying to sell me on equity that Dusan was a beast for 6 months and then just completely nosedived, and that's acceptable. But a guy that's been dominant for 3 years and isn't, like, what? Like, someone make that make sense for me.
Well, this is Dash's.
This is amazing, by the way, with the profile picture that I'm looking at. It's just amazing. Just got to point that out. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, this is Dash's. This is his segment. So Dash, I want you to take this forward then, and we are going to go into the number 9 position, and there is only one man to talk about, which is part of the problem. Dash, go.
Absolute failure. No, honestly, it is. It is for the price tag and the salary amount that man commands. I'm sorry, but he scored X amount of goals. Okay, great, fantastic. Most over 50% of them are pens. That he doesn't even earn, mind you. It's the players around him that earn. Yeah, you got to make the pen. I understand that argument. Fair. Valid argument. But it's getting to the point where I've been saying this for multiple years that this guy is not, he is a mid-table striker and will always be a mid-table striker that popped off for 6 months and got a big contract. And unfortunately, we're stuck with it. And for me, it's just there's like moments where I understand where his game is. There's some snippets where it's like, okay, there's some improvement, and then it's just like 2 games later, it's non-existent. And then, not to mention, Dusan hands down says some of the most stupidest stuff on interviews where I'm like sitting there and it's like, dude, I want to like you because I support the team, but holy hell, just shut your damn mouth. Because like even with like the Go ahead, Dave.
Did you see his latest one with him skiing, like the meme of him skiing down the mountain face, and it was like haters, and then it's him. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure you saw that one before you.
I saw that and just shook my head in disappointment because, like, even like for example, the comments when he was with Serbia is like, "Oh, it's so much better if I have another striker next to me to run and do this and that because at Juve I have to do." I'm like, bro. And you know what was funny was Paramount Plus called him out for saying that mid-game. Like the commentator said that mid-game where they're like, dude, you can't be saying that stuff. At Juve, it's a different ball game than it is with Serbia. Like you can't be like doing that. So it's like for me, it's just like this guy is always been a prima donna. He's never been a Juve guy. Just because people are like, oh man, he doesn't want to go anywhere because nobody wants to pay him $22 million gross. That's why he can't go anywhere.
All right, Dash, you got to go back in in your cage, simmer down, cool off. We're gonna hand this one over to Berto and Baby. Try to swing this the other way. Does he go the other way or do we go hard? Berto, what do you got?
I think in the right circumstances, he could be a solid, member to a club and whatnot. I think for us, this also speaks to maybe the aggression from Juntoli, because, it's not the easiest to come out of a rocky set of years where, you're under constant scrutiny. The microscope is always zoomed in on each player at Juve, and that's never going to change. So Juve's not going to change. And I hope to God we never change, because that's part of establishing the standards and whatnot. But to crawl out of the hole that you're in, sometimes guys just can't do it. And another coach isn't going to do it. And you have this faith that that's going to happen. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, it just ain't meant to be. And a break is needed for both club and player, to be quite honest. I think he could be in the right setup, doing good. The guy is like an enigma, though. Seriously. Like, I just don't get it. He'll score worldies, like goals that he's got no business finishing, that he'll come up with, like those two in Champions League that you're like, what? Where? How? And then he'll just miss a wide open sitter 8 yards from the cage with the keeper like out grabbing a hot dog, and he'll just miss the goal. And I have no idea where that comes from, but that's the reality of having this guy. So the complaining is never going to go well at Juve. And to be honest, I was kind of starting to get to that point with Fede Chiesa. And when Chiesa left, I said, mark my words, the same cycle is about to go down with Dusan Vlahovic. And you could see it a mile away. And here we are. In the summer, I think it's gone. The sad thing is, because he's our only striker, I actually think he's checked out right now as we stand.
He doesn't have that competition.
Yeah.
Could be. Gio, you used to be a big fan of him, but tides have changed lately. What do you got on him?
No, you're right, Dave. I was a really big fan of Vlahovic when we did sign him. I think that he was going to be, one of the pillars, I would say, for this team, right? I mean, that's probably what we all thought, when he did come in, because, at that time, Juve was in difficulty and we needed somebody to really carry the team as forward, but no, I mean, from what, for the past couple of years, Vlahovic has just been making excuses after excuses after excuses after excuses, and I'm tired of it. I used to have discussions with my dad because he's a Juventino, and he does not like Vlahovic, because he always says there's so many, attributes that Vlahovic is missing on the field that, that he's not a Juve caliber. Mm-hmm. And now, since I've been seeing it, and then also, Dave, you also mentioned it with the stats, and Alberto, you too, right? You mentioned about, the link-up play. Like 1-0 from Conceição. That's one of our main problems in our attack. It's Vlahovic. I have to say, it's Vlahovic, and that's why, like, he's one of the big guys. I'm telling you right now, because, like I said, for me, Vlahovic is gone in the summer. As of right now, we have no choice to keep him. We have no striker. Basically, if we let him go, so he's out in my book. He's really out. It sucks to say that because I really do like Vlahovic, but it really sucks to say that Vlahovic not fitting into Juve now is starting to sit in. And listen, we're paying the price because we paid 80 million for this guy. So like I said, and also we all knew that he wasn't a multi-type player, and like I said, let's see what happens, but it's like a whole Chiesa situation all over again. And I saw it as soon as he said that he didn't want to decrease his salary. As soon as that rumor happened, I was like, this is the same thing as the Chiesa situation. I'm like, get him out. Just get him out somehow.
This is another thing too. Like when Vlahovic was brought in, it was Arriva Bene and Cherubini that were in there just after Paratici, and they go out, they make the splash. Like, are we, because now it's like, Motta in his own words, he is involved in the pickups. Mm-hmm. Like he's involved in the mercado. He's actively working with Juntoli. So there's no excuses there. But like Vlahovic coming in and then just not being able to really hit stride with Allegri. And then, oh, well, this is the guy they gave Allegri this or whatnot. Well, what were we not talking to Allegri at the time? Were we not like, hey, we're looking at bringing in this guy, spending this big chunk of change on there? Like at some point, how are we picking up players for this team? Like, and the whole Cherubini Arriva Bene thing was kind of born out of a disaster anyways. So I sadly now kind of associate Vlahovic with that disaster. I was hyped for him when he came in because I did think like, okay, this guy is bagging a lot of goals at Fiorentina. He's up there for Capocannoniere. And then, slowly but surely, that window closes fast at Juve, and life at Juve comes at you quick. And I think some of the pickups now are seeing that. So it's an unfortunate series of events. I hope financially we can find something that isn't too painful. And like I said, a break is needed for all involved.
Well, I know there are a lot of Dusan fans out there in the comments. Somebody defend him because he got no love between the three of you here. And I'm not about to defend him either at this point. So hopefully you got some defense out there, Dusan, because it's going to be a rough night for you.
To his defense, we could create more chances. I'll say that.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's you can't 100% blame it all on one guy. We know that's not the case. There's nuance to it, but overall, yeah, I think you guys pretty much nailed it. So let's take the scope out a little bit more. We're going to broad stroke the rest of the team here. We've talked about the details. We're just going to go through each goalkicker's defense, mid, attack. I think we kind of covered the goal. Does anybody want to add into that at all?
No,
we're good. Okay, so the defense. Ooh. How do we even start this one? Right? Yeah, Berto, go with this one.
Pretty skinny, first off. Just a few guys to talk about, but losing Bremer just really takes the wind out of your sails for an entire season. It does. And it's not the ultimate excuse, though. You still have to go through. We're not the only club out there that is suffering from injuries, that has lost key guys to season-ending injuries. But there is a drastic change in play, in approach. That guy just allows you to cheat as a midfielder, as guys forward, because you can keep that line high. Yeah. There it wasn't a guy that was winning a battle against that guy. And it changes everything. And one of the things that we've lost in losing Bremer is you've seen us not keep that pressure and that aggression higher up the pitch. And it was helping us create early on in the season because we'd win the ball in the opponent's territory and go from there. Bremer is massive for me. He's our best player, period, is Gleison Bremer. The other guys in the back, it's just a mixed bag, Gatti hasn't seemed the same since getting the captain's armband and then losing it. He seems like ever since then, it's just been hit and miss. Good game here, couple bad ones. Kalulu hit the ground running. I still think he's better as a fullback than he is a center back. And I think aerially, we see that. The guy can't judge an aerial to save his life. Cambiaso, I don't think he's 100% yet, but I love Cambiaso, and I think he's a great player. But I think you could tell since he's come back, he doesn't quite look himself or like he's moving properly. Savona is a bright spot for me. A young guy coming out of nowhere that has pocketed some really good players. And that's why I'm not too hard on him, but he's green and makes errors here and there. But I'm willing to deal with that because his main job is to defend, and he does a great job against great players that he's faced. So I'm actually excited on Savona, happy about Cambiaso overall. And Gatti and Kalulu are doing the best they can, and they've had next to nothing for rotation because Danilo can't hack it at center back, but at fullback he can. So the defense is skinny, and I mean, how surprised are we it started to leak?
I'm not. And I think it's safe to say that, yeah, Bremer is the cheat code. He shored up the entire defense. Like, you lost him. but we don't have him anymore. We have to move on. So let's move on. Gio, do you have anything to add?
Definitely with Bremer, losing Bremer, he was like one of the pillars of this team, including I think in Motta's plan of playing out, from that, because I think Bremer was being used as like the Calafiori, right? And with that as well, every time that Bremer would play, I feel like that the opponent just won't score. Like the other opposite team just there's no chance. For example, he pocketed Lukaku, a couple other big monsters, like I said, big strikers, and losing him for an entire season really, I think, also killed off this Juve defensively. Gatti, I agree. I think when he definitely got the captain's armband, that was right now. I think that was like when he was playing at his best, and then once he, surprisingly actually got rid of the armband from Motta, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been the same since. Cambiaso, I think he's been also great this season. I think that he's been, I think, also really good. But at the same time, it's like, now it's like he can't find himself yet because of the injuries. But Savona, I rate him underrated player. I think that especially pocketing like Kvaratskhelia, a couple others as well.
Solid upward trajectory with him.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
Yeah, and he's still young. He has a lot to learn. He has a lot to learn, and I think that for Juve, this is a great sign, especially because we've always struggled with the fullbacks. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Savona. Danilo, it's hard because it's like he can't play in that 4-man defense. He can only play, I think, on the fullbacks. Who else? Kalulu. I think Kalulu was in the beginning he was very underrated. I like the way that he came into Juve, but sadly because he's not playing in his really natural position, I still rate him as a fullback as well, as a right fullback. Like I said, I'm gonna have to say it's his height. He and also his judgment when it's an aerial duel. It's definitely also killing us, especially on the corners or like the free kicks on the set pieces in general. So definitely, like I said, in terms of that, I think that I'm gonna have to say the back line is very skinny, like Berto said, and we definitely need to make at least a move in January to do something with that, because there's no way I think that we could go almost have without like at least like a Bremer replacement kind of, right, until Bremer at least gets back. So
it's you can't. He's irreplaceable. You can try to
of course. I mean, no, like I said, he is. I'm not saying that he's gonna like really replace him, but at least try to fill it. At least just get somebody to just help out.
So it's just a little dividend instead of a full hole. Dash, anything to add on the defense?
No, not really. I think you guys hit it on the tee.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. We do have to roll this along. We'll move into the midfield. And of course, we don't have to focus on people like Coop, for instance, people we've specifically hammered in. Of course, go ahead if you want. But the midfield, Gio, probably our best spot.
Definitely. Thuram has been, I think, great. I think in the beginning of the season, he struggled to get into, I think, par with this team. But I mean, look at the team's chemistry. Chemistry, I think, is everything in a team. If you don't have it, then what are you going to do? I mean, but I think he's done very well. Locatelli, what a player! What a difference, I would say, from last season to this season. Big difference, and I'm really
that's kind of the one like shining light.
Yeah, no, 100%. And in my opinion, I rated Fagioli in the summer really highly to come back. Disappointing for me. I really liked Fagioli too. But I think his time at Juve is coming to an end. And unfortunately, so I heard the rumors about Napoli, and I don't like selling to rivals. Especially after getting Nico Gonzalez and basically funding Fiorentina's whole, everything just in general, like the Villa Park, everything. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
J Park. We need to stop buying from those guys.
Yeah, please. Oh man, because it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible what we're doing, and not just that, but no, I mean, I think also we talked about Coop as well. Coop. One of the biggest problems with Coop, we all said it before. I think he's playing in the wrong position, and I think what I do like, I liked when he scored the goal against, I think, Bologna, was when he just came out of the blue and he just hit it right in the back of the net. Like he came out of nowhere and it was like the open space where I think I forgot who passed it. I think it was like Danilo or somebody from the outside that just puts it right in. And Coop was just there at the right timing. And that's the thing. He used to do that at Atalanta because I watched a lot of the Atalanta games and he used to do that. He just come out of nowhere and just take those nice shots and it's in the back of the net. You know,
well, Berto did mention that earlier. Yeah, running into space is more his style.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you know, who else am I missing from the midfield? Well, Douglas Luiz, we all know. Still,
he's missing from the
a zero for me. But if I was Motta, start him more. You know, why are you putting him on? You know, for 10 minutes? I understand that he's coming back from injury, but you know, listen, you're gonna have to change something at this point. The next game, I better see something new. Otherwise, Motta, I'm gonna ask a lot of questions if something is not changed. You know.
So basically, the players seem to be okay. The tactics, maybe not. Berto, the mid.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I'd say it. I think it's easily our best in terms of on paper per phase of the pitch is the midfield. Kefren Turam is a beast, and I love this guy. Like I love Kefren Turam. He gets better and better with each game. If he figures out the final third even a little bit more, this guy's going to be insane, absolutely insane. So pumped on that. That was a great piece of business. It's quick and easy to highlight the big money guys that maybe aren't pulling their weight, so to speak. But again, a lot of injuries. Nico Gonzalez, we haven't seen a bunch of. He could kind of slot into that midfield at that 10 role if we're looking at the 10 role. Yildiz as well. And that's just, it's how we use our guys. But Thuram's huge, and he was like 20 million euros. Great piece of business there. Luiz, I've never even heard of this fluid in the tissues of the muscles, this edema thing he's got going on. Like I've never, ever even heard of it until this season. And it's just par for the course. But he shows you when he's advanced probably about 25 yards from goal that he isn't afraid to make the passes that a lot of our guys hit the handbrake on and back off of. I still have hopes for this guy. We just got to get him on the pitch. And Fagioli for me is a bit bizarre because when we were seeing him on the pitch, it was locked in a pivot that we all saw didn't seemingly work with him and Locatelli. It was like the two of them went to the same spaces. It was awkward. Yet every time we saw Fagioli, that's how we saw him. Whereas for me, I would like to see him get the freedom Koopmeiners was getting advanced, in being able to see him maybe try to unlock a defense. I think he's got the capabilities and the ability to do that. However, we never saw that, and we saw him deeper and hugging the flank exactly like Koopmeiners was. So I it's kind of tough there, but I don't know. For Fagioli, maybe he just won't reach the potential. Maybe he's just a guy that unfortunately won't hit the potential. I don't know. I still think we could have used him more than we have up until this point. And again, that goes back to holding Motta accountable to this whole meritocracy thing he was talking about, because where is that if guys are essentially playing and they're not delivering? You went consecutively with like the same lineup and drew like teams we should be beating. And there was no change in the lineup, like at all. 3 times in a row, ultimately ending with a draw to 20th place Venezia. So, yeah, like I'd like to survive the 24-25 season without having a jammer. So please help me out here. But the midfield, it's our best, I think. And it's unfortunate how it's played out. But I do think in terms of depth, in terms of the players, in terms of the quality there, it's really why I don't understand how we can't put it together and make it look better on the pitch with the guys that are there, because I do think it's a solid group of players.
Yeah.
Locatelli's a beast, by the way, and I died on that hill. So at least I have that this season. At least I have that I wrote it out for that guy.
Yeah, I mean that was getting tough last year for sure, but it was nice to see Locatelli really shine under Motta's system. So that, again, a shining light in that sense. Now Dash on the midfield.
Yeah, I've got no comment. I think you guys hit it on the tee.
Man, you're keeping Dash quiet tonight. This is good. Doesn't happen all the time. All right. So in that case, we'll finish off with the attack. Of course, we focused in on Vlahovic, but for the left wing, the right wing, even the number 10 position, how it all connects in. Gio, let's start with you on this final attack.
I want to have to say the bright spot, which we all saw this coming. Yildiz.
Yeah.
What a player. What a player. Like, I can't believe it. 19, years old, and just like I said, scoring a goal, and trying to at least give some life for Juve against Milan, and just so I think this whole season around, and I've always said, that Yildiz is a natural number 10. I think that he's one of our most creative guys in the pitch as well. And when it comes into the transition and the attack as well, I mean, we've seen it with the couple games that he did play in it as a 10. We ended up scoring a lot. We ended up looking dangerous, especially on that counterattack as well. And when Yildiz is at his best, he's a beast. He's a beast. And then I'm gonna have to go with Conceição too. Conceição, I think, has been one of our most underrated signings as well since the summer. One of our top, because it's just like the way that he moves. He just, he doesn't like to pass back all the time. He likes to just go for it, just go. And I like that from Conceição, and I really like the way that he also moves. And and I've been a really big fan of Conceição. Sadly, he through injury he did miss the Super Cup, but other than that, I think he's been solid for us. Vlahovic, we could talk about Vlahovic all night long. With the issues that he has. But other than that, I think Weah. There's moments where you're like, okay, I could see something, but then there's moments where I'm just like, what? Like, what is happening?
He's like he's a third option that we're sometimes using as a first as well. So it's one of the
Yeah, and then Mbangula, I think we should be using him a lot more often. I saw a lot of comments on Twitter with a lot of people questioning, oh, don't start Mbangula. He's just like I said, this and that, a lot of questionable games that he had. But in my opinion, just let the kid play. Even Motta, when he first came in, he said that he'll play like 16-year-old, 17-year-old, whatever it takes to win, right? At the time. And guess what? Mbangula has been, I think, I would say performing, a lot. And I think he's, like I said, the more that he plays, the more that he's just going to get better and better, just like Savona, right? We talked about that. Same thing as Yildiz as well. Just like that, the consistency will come, because like I said, it's going to come. And I just think that, with Mbangula, doing that for, like I said, and then we go to Nico Gonzalez, with the injuries, it sucks, it sucks that we can't see it. But, the games that he's actually been back, especially when playing on the wing or at the 10, coming back and scoring, like, wow, like a good wake-up call, especially the goals against Monza. At least, he's trying to make an impact on the team. But I don't like that Motta's putting him as the striker. I think that, he's lost up there. Put him on the wing, let him attack the goal as well, like Conceição would be doing, or put him at that 10 role, because like I said, he could be, I think, just as creative as Yildiz can, but even though I favor Yildiz more, but
in defense, I mean, there is no rotation for Vlahovic. Gonzalez and Weah are really the two that can slot in as a 9. It's not pretty, but it's what you have.
Yeah.
It's tough. Okay, Dash, I won't keep you waiting this time. I'll let you go onto the attack here.
No comment. No, seriously, I don't, because everybody's saying all my talking points. I'm like, damn it.
I should have let you win first this time. Berto, what do you have on it?
Hey, they're the guests. Let them roll.
I think it's a little bit similar. In Bangula, I was not liking the transfer rumors, especially at such a low price. I think we've barely scratched the surface. I don't think yet with this guy, because he looks good every time he comes in on the left side. The right side, it's a different story for him, but as a left winger, I think he's very, very promising, and I definitely take a better look, at least for the season's entirety, but he needs to get some more rotation in there. Yildiz, there's nothing to say about this guy. Like, he just needs to be on the pitch. It really doesn't matter where. He's solid. He's good. He's talented, but give him the freedom. It's something I'm going to say for Chico as well. I hate, and even Nico Gonzalez to some degree, because I wasn't a fan of watching Nico in the games at the beginning of the year as a winger without freedom. gluing that guy to a sideline is kind of a shame. And that's why I say I see him more centrally doing more, giving more assistance to the group overall. But Yildiz, Conceição, even in Bangula, let these guys have a little bit more freedom. Don't just pin them to wings. Get them in positions where they determine where they need to be and find the pockets of space to do damage. I think they're all talented enough to do that. Conceição, please don't get any ideas now that your father's in the league and gone over there. Okay. It's going to get better. I promise you. Please don't go. Love this guy. Okay. Now, when it comes to Weah, on the wing, yeah, he's I think he's been solid. I think he puts in the best he can for the team as a support piece. He's great. Sometimes he just kind of handbrake on taking guys on 1v1, which kind of hurts us because our play is very reliant on those guys taking those players on. But outside of that, I've been happy with him as a support piece. That's really it. Vlahovic, yeah, we covered that one to death. So that's pretty much it in the attack. Overall, talented guys, but again, putting it together and finding that chemistry amongst all of them is still, it's January, and I think we could be firing a little bit better. And I will still put it towards some of the ideas coming from the coach and the system.
Yeah, overall, it seems like we're unhappy with the number 9, but the rest of the attack seems to be okay and going in a positive direction. I love how you guys are loving Bangula as well, especially, yesterday people were yelling that you got taken off. The tides have really started to turn with Bangula. I feel like I was even a little hesitant earlier in the season, but it's good, just like Savona, even Rui to maybe a lesser extent, seeing these young guys shining and like coming out from our next gen. Maybe we should do a midterm report on the next gen now that they're finally winning again. That's the broad strokes. We're gonna finish off now. Just basically on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll go around the panel here and just give an overall of the team, management, everything all together. 18 games in, was it 6 Champions League, a Super Coppa, and a Coppa Italia? That's the season thus far. Dash, scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate Juve?
5.
Right in the middle. Okay. Do you want to add to that, or you just like mic drop on that?
No, there's nothing really to add to it. It was just it's underwhelming. You can't draw 11 games and think everything's hunky dory. I'm sorry. For the standard that the club is at, I've got no words. Like, for me, it's a 5. It's not either good. It's not bad. It's half baked.
All right, half baked. Gio, what's your number?
I'm gonna go with a 6 because I always like to be positive, But I'm just gonna go with a 6. Like I said, there's still a lot of questions for this team and for Motta, and I think the only way that I think that we're gonna have to find out is if something changes in the next couple of games, right? Or if whoever the players that we get on the market is gonna make a difference or not, And like I said, if it doesn't, then the rating's gonna go even lower towards the end of the season, But I'm just gonna stick with a 6 for now until I see some hopefully positive results in the future.
All right, and finally, Berto, how do you feel?
I don't want to be the negative guy or the positive guy, so I'm just going to go 5.5 and just kind of hover there in the neutral zone. Okay, just going to hover in the neutral zone. But 12 points off the top here in January, 3 points out of 4th. So, like I said, this January is going to really shift that rating right now, but it is underwhelming for the most part. And I think we kind of covered that. The expectations wouldn't really change around Juve, but especially having spent that much, I can definitely just agree with everybody that we're not where we should be. I think on paper to on the pitch is quite a drastic difference. Even factoring in the injuries, all the time we spoke about Bremer. Look at where we're dropping the points and who we are dropping the points to. And if you put those teams on paper, we're kind of getting what we deserve based on the pitch and what's going on there. So it's hard to feel hard done by for this guy, even with the injuries, because of what we're seeing. I mean, at the end of the day, you got a job to do no matter who the 11 are on the pitch. And when you're coming out of games where we can say, yeah, you know what, we didn't deserve any more than that single point, or maybe we should have lost. Yeah, it's going to be a low rating for this point so far.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't even think you guys are really that far off. I thought about this myself before. I was thinking 5.5, 6 myself. So, yeah, I guess it's really no surprise. The only thing I have to say is the listener, you guys, do you disagree? Do you agree? Did we miss something? Well, we clearly missed something. There's too much to talk about. So, you know, please add in, get into the comments, add on to this discussion, because we do want to continue this discussion. It's our team, and we want the best for them. And honestly, I love the fact that we got 3 channels together today to discuss this. You know, a little differing point of views, but again, I think us as a community, as even teeny, we all want the same thing at the end of the day, and that's to win, and just for our players to be healthy and happy, and to play the best football you possibly can. And us as the community, all we can do is come together and support that as well as best as we can. So on that, Berto, Gio, thank you so much for joining us. Berto, do you want to drop any of your socials before we head out?
Oh, it's just the AJC _ on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube, formerly known as All Juve Cast. It's still probably on YouTube as All Juve Cast, but yeah, we're everywhere. TikTok, Instagram. Look up the AJC, you'll find us. I just want to say big shout out and thank you for the invite. It's appreciated. We should actually maybe create a little rotation there amongst all the channels and
absolutely
take turns hosting. But I had a lot of fun, and I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate the invite, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, years we've been trying to do this. I've been following you for years too. I guess this is the point where I simp over you a little bit. You were my first. You were my first in terms of bikini content.
Everybody remembers the first. Everybody remembers the first.
Oh man, and Gio, of course. Where can we find you?
Yeah, no, like I said, you guys can find Juve Cornercast on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, of course, you know, and also on TikTok. If you guys also just, you know, type in Juve Cornercast, and yeah, no, 100%, you know, up and coming Juve channel, you know, inspired by, I think, the whole Juve community. And you know, like I said, hope to get there to 1K soon. Like I said, we're on 600 now, so like I said, let's keep it rolling. Juventini.
Yeah. And like I've always preached, it is the community. You don't have to support one channel. We all offer slightly different. Oh, it's all similar, but all different. You know, not everyone likes us here at the Dive because we have potty mouths. If you want something a little bit more clean, you know, we have other channels here for you guys. We got Berto and Gio here to cover the calmer listening with your kids in the car, kind of, you know. But no, it's fun. We all have fun. You guys are all amazing. You all have great insight, different walks of lives. Y'all, I mean, Berto, you're out in BC right now. We got Gio in Miami, Dash in Detroit. I'm out in Ottawa. The community's huge, so thank you so much. This is a fun show, and guys, subscribe.
Club World Cup. We all maybe.
Mm-hmm. Or the World Cup as well coming up soon.
Yeah.
I already have tickets for that actually. Yeah, for the Philly one. I really got tickets for the Philly, so I might meet up with Trim.
I'll be in DC and Philly, both games.
Well then,
Berto, let's go.
We might have some content to make together, brother.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't know what's happening my summer yet, but I mean, if you guys are, I'll drive somewhere. Let's do it, guys. There's so much more to come. This is what happens when you bring the community together, as well as you guys. I mean, if you're going to be there, if you're on the road, we'll all meet up. We're a big, happy family. So please subscribe so you can get more content. Go over to the AJC, go to the JCC, go everywhere, subscribe everywhere. Everyone, thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next one.